Kia ora, everyone, and welcome to today's event. My name is Sam, and I am from Prospel. For those of you who don't know Prospel or weren't watching that video just then, we are a company that runs jobs boards for university students, as well as students polytechnics and students across the country. Our most notable one is Grad New Zealand. We also partner with a whole bunch of other groups as well. And again, hello and welcome to today's construction and property services stream. We'll start off with a panel today, this morning, and joining me on the panel to begin today's event, we've got, let's add everyone in now, Jess from the property group. Kia ora, Jess.
Hello.
And we've got Donovan from Fulton Hogan. Hello, Donovan. How are we doing?
G'day, Sam. How are you?
Good, good. Both going well this morning, or this afternoon now, I guess. It's 2 o'clock. What time is it? Yeah, going well?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks.
Fantastic.
Hi, Donovan.
Hey, g'day, Jess. How are you?
And for everyone, for the students, unfortunately, Downer Group has to send their apologies for today. Unfortunately, COVID has gone through the team, so it'll just be the three of us today, which will, I think, be pretty exciting, to be honest. We've got some great questions for you both to kick off today's event. But in fact, I might start with Jess. If you could just introduce yourself and the property group.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Jess. I work at the property group. I'm the people and culture advisor, and so I look after our graduate program here at the property group. We're a specialist property consultancy, so our business service lines range from property planning, GIS, urban regeneration, and we also have an in-house legal team. And we've got 13 offices across the country. And I'm based in our head office in Wellington. Right, that's probably it for me.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Jess. Donovan, same question. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and a little bit more about
g'day.
Fulton Hogan.
G'day, team. I'm Donovan Wallace. I'm our National Operations Manager for Fulton Hogan. So I look after all of our civil builds across the country. If you don't know what Fulton Hogan does, is we sort of cover all of the horizontal infrastructure in New Zealand, in terms of road building and water infrastructure and things like that, which I think we'll touch on a bit later, Sam? We've got about 7,500 employees, and we've got offices in almost every single region in New Zealand. So,
fantastic. Thanks for the introduction, Jess and Donovan. And now for all our students in the audience today, we're going to jump into a bit of a panel now. I'm going to ask a couple of different questions to both Jess and Donovan. But if you've got any specific questions yourself, make sure to get it into the Q&A function, which you also hopefully have access to down the bottom of the application. You can also interact in the chat as well. And maybe it might be a great icebreaker to let us know who you are, where you're joining from, maybe what institute you come from, whether it's uni, a technical institute, polytechnic. Let us know in the chat as well. But first question off the bat, and I'll go back to you, Donovan. What's the most important piece of advice you'd give to students aspiring to work both within Fulton Hogan and just in the sector more broadly?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it depends on what line you want to take, Sam, but I think the most important thing that's helped me in my career is keeping my mind open to new opportunities, and set your overall goal somewhere in your career, but just keep your mind open on which way that might take, because opportunities open up all the time, and don't get too sort of disgruntled if the opportunity is not right in front of you, and especially in the construction sector in New Zealand, it is very, very volatile at the moment, which is a great place to be, and opportunities that you never thought would come your way will open up.
Fantastic. Jess, same question. Most important piece of advice.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a really good piece of advice. The one that I give to graduates thinking about working for us, or anybody really, is to research the company and to understand what they do. Fulton Hogan's quite a well-known business. We're less well-known. We're quite a medium-sized business. So we often find that people don't know what we do, or they get confused about what we do. So we really encourage people to, jump on our website and figure out whether this is the best place for you and really understand what you will be doing here. But in saying that, keeping a really, like Donovan said, keeping an open mind is also important, because we find people come in one area and then they actually find they enjoy working in another area of the business and they end up moving in quite a different direction. So.
Fantastic. I've got a couple of great questions already coming in from the Q&A component too, and I might jump to Patricia's. She had a couple of questions actually. I think it's probably a good one to start off with, which is there's a few here and we'll go through them one by one. Do either of you have internships that you recruit for? Would you recommend them? Also, do you have a set grad program as well? Would it be, I might look up, maybe start the internship question first. And then also finally, where can we find information to apply and key dates? Jess, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we do have a graduate development program. So if you want to find out information about that, you tune in at 3 o'clock when we'll be talking about it, all about our grad program. So we have a 2-year grad program, and we currently have 13 grads on that. As I said, we're about 180 people, so it's not a huge grad program. All the information about that is on our website, on how to apply, what areas of the business we take graduates in. And we do take interns as well. Our internship program's not as formalized at the moment. We tend to we figure out where and when our grads are going to, what areas of business they're going to go to, and then we take on interns. The interns tend to be internships tend to be a little bit more informal, so they usually come about by people, just really proactive students contacting us, and if we've got an opportunity, then we go from there. So
fantastic. So yes to both. Which is great. Donovan, same question. Do you? Same questions. Do you have an internship program?
We're very similar to the property group. You know, we've got a graduation or a grad program. Our grad program, there's probably a few of them. Again, sort of caters to a difference of scenarios. But in most regions, we're running grad programs, so that gives people the ability to also work away from home or work close to home for the first few years of their career. The other thing is that we run a few almost subsidiary grad programs where we have a rotation scheme with our client and a consultancy. So you get a bit of a flavour around doing a bit of construction, go work for the client like Waka Kotahi or NZTA or one of the Auckland Transport or a council, Dunedin Council, for example. But also get the consultancy side of things. So you go into the likes of Oricon or WSP or GHD, and you can actually do a bit of design work. And at the end of that rotation scheme, you can then have a good flavour of what you actually enjoy more of, and then perhaps go and work permanently for one of those companies. So there's quite a few different. We also run a cadetship, so which is a little bit different to the internship, but it's probably more in terms of building a career in the trades.
Fantastic. Couple of questions here in regards to eligibility. Now, do you only take students from universities, or would you consider students with a diploma, maybe coming from a polytech, like a unitech or something like that? Jess, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can. We do target students from polytech or unitech as well. Generally, it's degree level, but we're not really. We don't kind of. It's not that we won't look at people. I mean, we'll look at all applicants if they can demonstrate some kind of interest in the property industry or in consultancy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're not sure, I think, put your hat in the ring.
No harm, right? Yeah, Jess, like just put your name forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're sort of again. There's no eligibility in terms of grades or having a master's or a diploma, for example. we take all engineering students on face value, and it's a interview process, and our main character we look for is good people to work with. The skills we can teach. I think behaviours and culture is something that we look at more intently. The only sort of prerequisites is probably more in terms of our scholarships. Those are the sort of qualification where it really matters what grade you're getting.
Yeah.
That's probably a good segue into the application process, actually, more broadly. We mentioned, quality of fit's pretty big key component there, Donovan, but is there anything else that Fulton Hogan looks for in an application? Is there anything in particular students on the call should try to demonstrate to be able to progress to through each round?
Yeah, I think when you apply for one of these and you get to the interview stage, you want to demonstrate who you are as best you can. And if that's about talking about stories that you can share around doing some work experience or how you've handled a situation, those are the sort of things that we want to talk to you about. Also, a little bit of aspiration is always good, going, well, I can see myself leading some people, for example, or I really like, and what you like and dislike. I really like getting into numbers and or I actually like being on sites more. That's what's, so it's about getting to know you as quick as we can. We only got that hour or 2 hours of an interview. We want to know who you are so that we can make a decision based on that.
Fantastic. Same question, Jess?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think a really good point to make is that we know that graduates, we're not expecting them to come with, years of experience. You probably won't have any experience. So we tend to look at the person and, if they're well-rounded. So things like any part-time work experience that you've had through university is really useful. Any volunteering or sport or travel is the other one that I always find is really useful when we're looking at our grads. The other tip I would give our grads is who are looking to apply is just read the news. It's really research, read the news, know what's going on, because a lot of the time our the clients or the projects that we're working on, they're things that people know about, and the news will be the same for Fulton Hogan, I would imagine, as well. So just knowing what's going on is really valuable, I think. And so we've changed our interview process a little bit last year. So we don't just now we used to just do, like, say, an hour interview. We've changed, and it's kind of half a day, I suppose, now. So the reason we did that is that we find that students get really nervous in those 1 hour interviews, and often we don't really get to see the person. So now we get them to come in, they have a shorter interview, they do a written exercise, and then they do like a case study with the other students who are applying. So it sounds quite scary, but it's designed to make people more relaxed, and they do relax a little bit more over the day, and then you get to see the person, like Donovan said. So yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, you gave a little clarity there on your application process, Jess, the property group. Donovan, do you have any insight you can give to the team on the Fulton Hogan application process at all? It's quite similar.
I think it is quite similar, and I think Marie and Brigida will be covering it in their presentations at 3 o'clock. So stay tuned to have a look at the application process. Is what I can say.
Fantastic. So for students who land a job with you, is there any particular advice you would give them to help them survive and thrive in their first year? So they've got their first job, they started with you a couple of weeks in. What should they be doing? Jess, do you want to go first?
Survive. It's an interesting one. I would say that the biggest piece of advice we give our grads is just to ask questions. If you're not sure, ask questions. There's a lot of support for our grads and people there to help you. So don't sit back if you're not sure. Just be curious, I suppose.
Donovan, same question.
Yeah, that's great advice, Jess, is ask questions. My advice would be make friends. you're starting a career in an industry it seems massive when you first start, but actually it's very, very small, and you can make some really, really good friends that last pretty much your whole career. And you got to understand that a lot of people are going for the same stuff that you are doing. During our grad program, we do get the grads together in the country, and so they do get to do some networking. But probably the most important advice I can give you is just have some fun. I enjoy the job. Don't get too stressed about it. There's a lot more time in your career you can be stressed about this sort of stuff. It's when you first get into it, have some fun.
Good. Question from Annie in the Q&A, and it asks, are mature age students welcome, particularly those with plenty of experience in potentially other industries? Donovan?
Yeah, absolutely. We can learn a lot from other industries, and we seldom get people from other industries applying on this one. So we definitely welcome that, Sam.
Jess, same question.
Yeah, absolutely. We would welcome mature students, and there's definitely no age limit on it. So yeah, anybody as interested is eligible to apply.
Fantastic. It's a question here from Julie in regards to throughout the application process. Do you do research on candidates, particularly if it gets really up to that offer stage? I think probably the concern is maybe for students, maybe their Facebook, their personal Instagram, and all that sort of stuff. Is there anything that is a bit of a red flag that they should be aware of, that maybe should tidy up their social media?
That's a good question. We would, if they provide their LinkedIn profile, we would have a look on their LinkedIn profile, but that's about it. We definitely don't go trawling through Facebook or Instagram. Yeah.
Donovan, same question.
Yeah, I think we're about the same. We do some reference checks in terms of given references, and with anyone starting a career at Fulton Hogan, they do go for police clearance. And that's not unique just to students.
Yeah, we do that as well. Yeah.
Hopefully that alleviates some concerns there for Julie.
You don't need to delete your Facebook pictures, Julie.
Yeah.
Joy wasn't, sorry, that asked.
No,
yeah.
don't go to my Facebook.
Yeah. I guess follow-up question to that, if we're checking LinkedIn's, which is obviously a fantastic tool, is there anything that you look out for on LinkedIn? Is there anything they should particularly include on their profile? Jess?
Not particularly. I find that students aren't particularly active on LinkedIn, to be honest, because a lot of the time they haven't. This is their first job. So the things that we would look for is maybe companies that they're following, or groups that they're interested in that show their interest in the industry, or if they're following the property group, for example.
Quick tip for everyone. Follow the companies you're applying for.
That just shows the maturity around doing the research for who you want to work for. Making sure your values align to the company, and you can get all that with following them on LinkedIn, because you get to see real people's stories. So if you relate to those, then perhaps that shows a level of maturity. So good call, Jess.
Yeah, and also if you're following particular groups or industries, that picks up on that point I made earlier about just researching and reading the news and understanding what's happening in that industry. It's a really good way to then start making those connections as well that Donovan mentioned earlier.
Fantastic. Do both of you still, from your grads and interns, require them to submit a resume as part of the application process? Yep, nods. So I guess the follow-up question, a bit of a trick question, but the follow-up question is, why is a resume important? Who wants to?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think in terms of resume, it gives us a quick snippet to start looking at what you've done up to now, to sort of shape your thought pattern into the career you want to follow. It doesn't have to cover exactly work experience, but put some stuff in there around some of the decisions you've made. So for us, it's really good to see, like when we look at resumes, some of the things that open up discussions is, well, why did you leave this company or join that company? Or why did you leave this paper out and pursue this type of university paper, you know, and that gives us just a few more prods around who you are. It's definitely a good idea to have a resume.
Yeah, I agree with that. We also ask for students to submit a cover letter, which is probably, I think, usually more insightful than the resume, because it gives us a sense of whether they've researched the company that they're applying for. You can tell really easily when someone's done a copy and a paste in a cover letter. So I would suggest putting some time into a cover letter if you're applying for a job. And it also gives us a good idea of quality, attention to detail, which we look for throughout our interview process.
Are there any particular do's and don'ts that you can really flag for when you're reading the cover letter?
No grammatical errors, no spelling mistakes. Yeah, they're pretty quick wins.
Addressing it to the wrong company as well, I'm sure.
Addressing it to the wrong company. Yeah, I've had that happen. Yeah.
Does Fulton Hogan look for cover letters as well, Donovan?
We don't specifically put it as a prerequisite, but you can tell if someone's written a really good cover letter, how professional they are, and I think it's really important. Yeah.
Back to the resume as well. I just want to really drill down on this, because for some students, it might be the first time they're actually creating their professional resume. So, is there anything you really look out for in a resume, and is there a particular length that they should be sticking to? Any red flags around that?
You go first, Janice, if you want. Or
I mean, I would say a couple of pages max, 3 pages. I mean, you're graduate, so you're not going to have a whole lot of work experience, but yeah, I would say a couple of pages max. Remembering that often for grad programs or grad roles, we get a lot of CVs, so we're not going to spend an hour looking through each one. That's just the reality of it. So your education, your qualification, any work experience, like hobbies, interests, that kind of thing, are pretty standard to include on it.
Yeah, I would agree with Jess. I wouldn't have a resume more than a page if you're only starting your career. You know, so.
Yes, it also shows how succinct you can be, right?
Yeah.
How good you are at summarizing. That's great.
Yeah. And often the universities, if you're at a university, they usually offer resume services where someone will help you. So that's a good idea to get someone to have a look at it as well if it's your first time doing it.
Yeah, and if you can get some character references in there, that's outside your family and friends. I remember when I first started, it was really hard to find a reference that's not family friends. You know, and so I think if you can have a university lecturer or someone like that can give a reference on your behalf, that'll work as well.
Is there anything you don't want to see in a resume? Obviously, having it too long is one big thing, and you mentioned a couple of things that are really key to include. But is there anything you look at when you see a resume, you're like, oh, why is that there? Tough one, maybe.
Yeah, I think it is a tough one. It's hard to put your finger on it. I think keeping it short and simple and to the point. Don't labor any of the points that you want to make. Make them short and sweet and punchy. If you waffle on too long with one point, then you're trying to fill the space, and that comes across that way. So,
Jess,
I mean, nothing springs to mind, but yeah, just the length, I think, is probably the main thing.
Yeah, I guess similar to the resume as well, spelling errors.
Yeah, the quality. Yeah.
There's a question from Amanda asking about whether or not you take on diplomas of architectural technology students, but maybe I'll sort of expand the question. Get you to sort of clarify, is there any particular disciplines that you're very much looking for? I think, Donovan, I heard you say engineering is obviously the key focus, but anything more than engineering at Fulton Hogan? And then I'll throw to Jess from Property Group.
You go first, Donovan.
Okay. Yeah. Look, we've got a vast range of different roles and careers in Fulton Hogan. You know, sort of from accountants to designers to design groups, mechanical and electrical engineers, civil engineers, structural engineers. I think, again, if you don't throw your ring inside the hat, you won't know. Definitely consider all applicants, and what we try and do is shape a career around a person. So we won't try and box you into one specific role if you've got skills for 4 of them, for example. So without saying exactly architectural student, but it's pretty open there.
Jess, same question. What sort of?
Yes, we do have some eligibility criteria. So we've got, and I'll talk about this in our presentation at 3, but we've got 2 streams, I suppose. One of our first stream is property and GIS, and the disciplines that we look for are property, obviously, but we also take business degree, business, commerce, or law, and then for the GIS part of it, that's usually they tend to come from science with some GIS papers. And then we've got a planning and urban regeneration stream. So that's a bit more specific. Planning, obviously, architecture, urban design, urban planning are the main ones in there.
Fantastic. I think there's another question about rotations as well, but I assume that's probably going to be covered in both presentations, like the sort of work. So I might leave that for, don't want to take too much out of those presentations that are coming up after this panel. So I might switch gears a little bit and ask a question of, if you could both maybe describe a typical day in the life of a grad or an intern, if you can, but if not, maybe yourselves. Donovan, do you want to kick us off? Typical day in life of someone at Fulton Hogan.
It's a good question. It's probably a broad range. But if I had to pick, for example, a typical engineering student being on, or engineering grad, it probably depends on where you are and what projects we've gone on at the moment. So you can see my background there. That's a wastewater treatment plant we're building in Tauranga at the moment. So we've got a couple of grads on that, working out how to put up precast panels and pour concrete and structural steel, and so you're learning the whole time from other engineers and project managers that's done it for a while. You could get a rotation from there into a bitumen plant, for example, and learn how to the chemistry behind making bitumen and putting it on the road, or I'm looking at our Fulton Hogan precast yard here. You could be going in there if the interest lies on how to do precast concrete, reinforced concrete. And so pretty much on a day, you're learning how to be an engineer and learning from people that've been doing it for a while.
Fantastic. Jess, same question. Typical day in the life of a young grad.
Sure. Well, because I work in the people and culture team, I don't know the ins and outs of the technical side, but I can give it a go. So it does depend, like Donovan said, a lot on the type of work that we have and the type of clients that you're working with. But that's, I think, a good point to make, is that when you're working in a consultancy environment, you don't just get to work for the property group, for example. You actually get to work for all of these different types of businesses and clients. So our grads could be working with a range of different clients. Waka Kotahi is a big client of ours, New Zealand Transport Agency, quite a lot of central government clients, local authorities, and then private clients as well. So I think I know our grads in our Wellington office here, our consultants all have a Monday morning meeting where they assign the work for the week ahead. And probably the biggest thing is that our grads will be with a senior consultant. You don't just get thrown in at the deep end by yourself. So there'll be a lot of learning on the job, but working alongside a senior consultant. So it might be attending a client meeting, going on a site visit, writing reports or recommendations to a client. And then there's also some fun stuff as well. So a little bit of social activities our grads like to get involved in. We have sports teams, daily quiz is quite important fixture in the day. We've got Friday drinks, that kind of thing. And our grads are part of a peer network as well, which is similar to what Donovan mentioned. So they usually have learning sessions as a group across the country. So,
Mhm.
so it could be any of those, really.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
In terms of, I mean, you'll speak to students, I'm sure, quite often, whether as they're starting or in platforms like this. Do you find there are any big key common misconceptions about either, Fulton Hogan or Property Group, or just the construction industry in general that you find come up quite often? Jess, I might start with you.
Yeah, well, that goes back to the point I made at the start. We often get common misconception is that we're a real estate company, and we don't do real estate at all, or that we're property management. So we're neither of those. They're probably the two things that we don't do. So that just goes back to have a look on our website. It's a really good source of information about what we do and the types of projects that we've worked on. Mm-hmm. That all often resonates with students more than us describing our service lines. It's like, well, what have we worked on? Give an example. So there's lots of case studies on our website. So, yeah, common misconception about probably consultancy is that you have to work 80 hours a week, which, I think that's maybe in the past in consulting environments that would be true, but it's definitely not true of our environment. We don't expect people to work kind of till 11 o'clock at night or anything like that. So it's quite a balanced environment now.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Donovan, same question. Common misconceptions about Fulton Hogan, maybe just the construction industry more broadly. Probably.
Yeah, if I had to get some misconceptions around Fulton Hogan, I think probably the most misconception is around what we do. We don't just build roads and put down asphalt, and I think that's really important to understand. In the construction industry itself, again, the common misconception is sort of a dirty contractor. It's not a professional career, but it's actually it's a really you can take yourself into a real high place and have a really professional career where you're rubbing shoulders with ministers and people inside NZTA and Whakatahi and I think you don't have to be stuck inside the actual building of construction the whole time. It's actually easier than you think, being able to move between building the job, being the client, or being the designer and being in the design group. And in fact, probably the most successful people in the construction industry have been in all three of those camps. So.
Yeah, I might add one more. Is just around is diversity. When I think when people think of construction and property, in the past, it's probably typically been a male-dominated environment, but that's definitely changing, and it's become much more professional. I think, for example, our business, probably 10 years ago, it would have been more male-dominated, but this year we had 8 grads start and 7 of them were female. So it's definitely becoming more gender balance in the industry, I think.
Fantastic point, Jess. That's a fantastic point.
Great. I got a question in from Kieran. Interesting question. Just about the difference in working in New Zealand versus maybe going over the ditch to Australia. Is there anything you can, obviously, Property Group and Fulton Hogan operations, working in New Zealand, so maybe you could talk about what it's like to work locally versus going across the ditch. And feel free, obviously I'm an Australian, so feel free to be a bit brutal if you want. Who wants to go first? Donovan, do you want to?
Yeah, I can go first there. I haven't worked abroad myself, but we are in Australia. In fact, we probably do the same amount of business as in New Zealand. The main difference in the construction sector there is that you are doing more contract management rather than looking after people that's actually building the job. So in Australia, there's a lot of smaller construction firms that are supplying the labour and materials and things into a project. And if you are in the bigger construction teams over there, like Leighton's or Fulton Hogan, you're actually contract managing subcontract packages, and over in New Zealand, we deliver most of our own work, and so here you're actually talking to the people and organising the groups that's doing the work, and it's a lot more hands-on in terms of engineering.
Just anything to add to that? Any benefits of staying obviously local rather than going across the ditch?
That's a hard question. I mean, I've worked in Australia, and I'm not a Kiwi, but I've lived here for 10 years. The thing that I notice about New Zealand since I've lived here is it's quite small. So, and then you've got this industry within New Zealand that's small as well. So everybody tends to know each other. So that can be positive or it can be negative. You know, it's a good way to make connections and do a good job. So you can make a name for yourself, but likewise it can go the other way as well. So yeah, that would probably be the main point I'd make there.
You can always go to Australia after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Conscious of time, we're actually coming up to almost the end of our panel. Just a couple more minutes left, and I do have probably another one or so that from mine that I want to ask you. But I do have a question here from JP asking the best time to apply for jobs at both the Property Group and Fulton Hogan. Jess, when's the best time to be applying for property?
Best times now. Our grad program opened on Monday for property and GIS. So that's live now for 3 weeks. And the planning and urban regeneration part of it that I mentioned, that opens in mid-May. But we've aligned our program with the university year because we tend to find that students want to apply now, but then they'll start in January. And that also means they start together as a cohort or a group of grads, which is quite nice.
Donovan, same question. I assume we're almost jumping into the presentation that's up next, but right now as well?
My answer probably contradicts your presentation, funny enough, but I would say now or as soon as you can. It doesn't matter what time of the year, just apply. We've got grads starting whenever they're ready, and we've got people that applied to be in the grad program, but they want to go on a 6-month OE, and so we accommodate that. Go and do that, and then come back and start your career. And sometimes having a bit of agility around the start date is just what people need.
Fantastic. Well, let the presentation next clarify any other dates as well they need to be aware of. I reckon final question, just for both of you as well. Just a couple of sentences. Give us your quick elevator pitch. We talked a little bit about all throughout today, but why should students apply for Fulton Hogan? Donovan.
My elevator pitch probably is the story for myself, Sam. I started at Fulton Hogan as a 19-year-old labourer. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, and Fulton Hogan pushed me into studying to be a civil engineer. And I couldn't do that because I already had a young family, and so Fulton Hogan said, well, you can study part-time and we'll supplement you through that. And I did that, and I was able to then go on a few major projects, which you don't get often that chance to do that in New Zealand. And if you do get a chance, I recommend it to everyone. And then here I am now as a national manager looking after our civil team. And I think the diversity in Fulton Hogan and the people that you work with have got real good values. We're a family-based company, 100% family and staff owned, and probably the last real construction company in New Zealand that build the stuff that we sell.
Fantastic. Jess, same question.
That's a bit of a hard one to beat.
Elevator pitch, yeah.
Story like that. I would say it's a really great way to kickstart your career in the property industry, and I think our point of difference is we're big enough that you get a really diverse range of projects to work on, but we're still medium sized or small enough that you get to know everybody and got a really flat structure, and yeah, it's a fun environment to be in. And the other thing is, I think getting some skills in consultancy will really set you up for a career in any other place, because they're really core skills like communication, understanding client, problem solving. So that's a really good foundation for your career, I think.
Fantastic. Well, both fantastic elevator pitches to conclude our panel today. Jess and Donovan, thank you so much for your time answering all the questions, particularly some of the tricky ones I threw in throughout the panel. But I'm just going to quickly remove you both from the spotlight now. But up next, we've got, again, a continuation of a bit of a discussion with the Fulton Hogan team. Donovan's jumping off, but we've actually got Geeta, Cedric, and Marie joining us right now. Let me just add you all in. And just as a flag for everyone, Jess and the team for Property Group will be speaking directly after this call as well. So make sure you stick around if you have any questions for the team then. But Geeta, I'm going to remove myself and I'll throw to you.
Cool. Thanks, Sam. Hey, everyone. My name's Birgitta, and I'm a talent business partner with Fulton Hogan. So I'm working on the recruitment side of things. And Marie is in my team as well. So she's with us. And we also have Cedric, who's one of our graduate civil engineers. So he can answer all your tricky questions around what he actually does and stuff like that. So we've got a quick presentation we're going to run through, and then we're going to focus more on the Q&A side, because I can see you guys have had quite a lot of questions throughout that panel. So yeah, let's run through it. If you do have questions, drop them in chat and we will run through them as we go. So just briefly, I know Donovan covered Fulton Hogan as a whole, but there are two sides to it. And
Birgitta, those slides aren't showing if you're trying to share your screen, sorry.
There we go. Hold on. That's always a good place to start. Can you see it now?
Yep, perfect.
Cool. All good. Great. This is what I was trying to show you. It's definitely better with the diagram. So Fulton Hogan, we have the corporate office. Our head office is actually in Christchurch, but we have offices all over the country, and we're split into two sides. So Donovan sits within the civil side of the business. So construction is made up of major projects and civil, and we build all the big exciting projects. On the other side, we have infrastructure services, and they do a lot of maintenance work, and that covers the quarries, asphalts and sand plants. And as Donovan mentioned as well, we're a vertically integrated business, so we use our own resources and labour to deliver projects, which is quite cool. Marie?
So as B just said before, we are split into two parts. I'm the National Talent Manager for the Construction Division, and that's all the big sexy stuff. That's how I like to phrase it. So it's major projects and civil. And there's just a couple of examples here of some of our projects. We've got Queenstown's busy at the moment. They are running full throttle. We have we're doing a lot of work in the water space, mainly in the North Island, and you'll see that we've got Wairari there, and the team is doing really well on that project too. We're hitting our milestones. We also have a project called the Watercare Enterprise Model that we're delivering with Watercare. That's in the Auckland region. Our civil team is also delivering the Fonterra community model. So there's a lot of work in the dairy space that we're doing. Manawatu Gorge is another big grunty project that we're very excited about. We've got 3 major bridges on that everyone's very excited about. There's a couple of projects that aren't mentioned on there, of course, but we just sort of chose a couple of images that we thought would get everybody excited. So that's the major project side. And then if we go to the next slide, infrastructure services, again, we're just splitting it up for you so that you understand how it all works. Our infrastructure services, as you saw on the first slide, it's kind of like it handles the manufacturing side. So it's the bitumen, it's the asphalting, it's all the black stuff that goes on top of the road. And we've also got Stevenson's that's part of that business, and they deliver all of it. They also deliver all of our NOC contracts, so all of the big maintenance projects that come up. And there's just a couple of examples there on the screen of some of our projects on the infrastructure services side.
Cool, thanks Marie. So moving into our grad program itself, and we'll give you a brief overview of that. So our grad program runs across 2 years. You rotate generally every 6 months to a different part of the business or a different part of the project, depending on where you go. We also have 4 graduate summits a year, so all our grads come together and hear from some of our senior leaders and do some learning stuff and just get to network, which is really important. You also get joined up with a buddy when you first start, so they're there to help you out and answer any questions and just make sure you are feeling okay and know what you're doing. And you also get a mentor and a career development plan. We help you work towards your chartership as well, and we have stuff like lunch and learn sessions, and really it's up to you how much you want to learn, because there's just heaps of stuff you can get involved with. If you join the construction division, you'll either be in our civil team and work on a range of different structures and heavy civil projects, and you can rotate into a major project, or you could join a major project and either stay on that project the whole time but experience different parts of it, so as it progresses through the different areas. So like when a project first starts, it's kind of earthworks focused, and then it moves into structures and onwards from there, so you get quite a lot of exposure across the project. Or you can move into civil and maybe work on a smaller project and have potentially more responsibility. So there's a lot of different options, and it's up to you where you want to go really. You can put your hand up and drive your career that way. And I guess the main focus that we want you to think about is that we want you to have a good career with us. You start as a grad and you can go as far as you want. You can switch areas, you can progress into a senior leadership role. It's really endless where you can get to. The career pathways is a key way that will help you do that. And we're pretty proud of this. It's pretty recent, but it shows you your pathway from coming in as a grad engineer and then progressing to a site engineer. I know the writing's probably a little bit small for you guys, but you can see the list of different training and experiences that you need to get to the next step. And it's just a clear way for you to plan your year and work out what experiences you need to get. And that kind of drives what projects you might want to go onto as well. Like if you've had no exposure to something and you can see you might need it to move on to the next level, you can put your hand up and move that way. And there's other ones as well that show you how to change into a different area of the business. If you have more of an interest in maybe like health and safety or mechanical and electrical or something like that comes out, you can switch over as well. So you're not just confined to the engineering pathway. And then in terms of our recruitment process, I know I'm going through this really quickly, but I want to leave lots of time for your guys' questions and for Cedric to tell you a bit about what he actually does as a grad as well. So I'll just quickly run through the application process and then Cedric can have a chat with you. So our applications are open now until the 26th of April. So you've got a week or so, but just get them in as soon as possible. We don't wait for the shut-off date. We contact people as they come in. So, you know, we're already progressing through interviews and stuff like that. So get in as soon as you can. Our start dates are towards the end of this year and early next year. But if you've already finished or you're finishing halfway through the year or whatever, we can accommodate that as well. So don't let that put you off. It's a really quick application process. We just need your CV And then Marie or I tend to give you a call and have a chat with you just around what you're looking for and what you're interested in. And from there, it's an interview just online at the moment with the whole COVID situation. And then we do reference checks. So it's a pretty fast process, and we just want to make it as easy as possible for you. Now I'm going to pass you over to Cedric, and he can tell you a bit about what he does as a grad. Maybe Cedric, do you want to start off with how you got into Fulton Hogan and why you applied and just your journey so far?
Yeah, for sure. So I studied at the University of Auckland and joined FH at the end of 2020. I got a call from Marie one day, and I didn't actually notice that it was an interview per se. So it was more of a chat, and she just wanted to know who I was and really get to know me on a casual level. After that, I was invited into an interview kind of scenario, a bit different from, I guess, how we do it nowadays. But even in that session, I was well comfortable. Marie made sure I was comfortable and not took away all my jitters and all that. But I quite liked that interview just because they didn't pound on making sure you were the perfect person for the job, but more of if they could find you were the right fit for where you could go in your future. And that's what stood out to me with FH. So yeah, I joined FH down in New Plymouth, which was a big move, but I just wanted to get my foot in the door mostly. And I really enjoyed that experience because working in such a small region, I was in an office with just me and the project manager sitting behind me, and I was just always able to ask them questions. So that first project was a pump station. There was a lot of concrete work and steel reinforcing extension of the existing pump station. So a lot of I'd say it's thrown in the deep end, but still have someone who has your back with the project manager. After that, I moved up to Awakino after a few months to do the Awakino tunnel bypass. So I got to touch on pavement works and bigger civil works. That was even more interesting because I got to meet more of the FH team all over New Zealand. And then after that, I moved up to Auckland, and now I'm up at Hibiscus Coast doing another pump station. So more of the major underground pipe work and cut-ins, which I think Donovan mentioned earlier, part of the water care enterprise model. So yeah, big scope of works coming up.
Cool. It's definitely interesting being able to go through all those different projects. Does anyone have any questions for Cedric about what it's like to be a graduate in Fulton Hogan? Chuck those in the chat. Maybe in the meantime, I'll answer a few of these other questions. How many grads are you taking? Across Fulton Hogan, we're looking for 85 or so grads. So that's across the whole business. So there's lots of opportunities for people to get a grad role there. Tips to prepare for an interview. Do a bit of research on the company. We're a contracting company. We're not a consultancy. Like it's just, it's just good to have that sort of basic thing under your belt. But really, we want you to do your best in an interview. We want you to show us who you are and get to know you. And we do help you do that in the interview. You can always practice like situational based questions as well. And there's heaps of those online. It's always good to have a look at those. Oh, look, Cedric, here's one for you. Anything you wish you did differently in your first year?
Ooh, first year. I don't think I would have done many things differently. I really appreciate that I was able to travel around the country to take part of these other projects, especially meeting the people down in New Plymouth, seeing how they function and compared to the big city in Auckland. So I don't think there was much that I would change.
So Cedric, if I can just jump in there, can you maybe talk about, because we talk about having a career, and it's important to be flexible and be able to move around. And you'll get to a point, all of you, I can't see any of you, so it's a bit difficult, but you'll get to a point where you're comparing each other against your cohort, and you're wondering why some people might be getting ahead of others. And sometimes that's a bit of a mystery. But what we find is that people within our business that are prepared to move around a little bit, and it's like you're gathering snapshots, and you need to think about what you're going to be like when you're a grandma or a granddad, and that's hard to imagine now, but it will happen one day. Believe me, time flies. So you've got them on your knee, and you're going through your brag book, and you're going through all those little photos and saying, look, I built this bridge, this was a wastewater treatment plant that I worked on, and you're basically you're gathering the structures, or you're gathering the experiences that you need in order to have a really well-rounded career with us. And Cedric, you were the one you were happy to put your hand up, and you were happy to go where the work was, and you got to go to Taranaki, and you got exposed to quite a few different projects, and you got exposed to more because you were in a smaller region, didn't you? And then Donovan, who's now gone, but Donovan was on before, Donovan said to Cedric, what can I do to make your job better? And Cedric said, oh, look, I'm really keen to get back to Auckland. And within 2 weeks, he was back up in Auckland. So can you talk a bit about what it was like for you going down to Taranaki, and how it gave you a bit more exposure to a few things, and perhaps rounded you out quite quickly in that first year?
Yeah, for sure. So coming into the team in New Plymouth, I think the team was about seven of us in the management team, and the area manager sort of brought me around to all of the projects in the first week. So I got to meet the whole team. Don't know if you guys have been to New Plymouth, but it's a really nice place. Definitely different from Auckland. But the main things that I learned really is that you have to be willing to make the effort to actually ask the question. As dumb as it seems, they don't know what you don't know, and I think that's a big thing. And then another one is being in a place where I didn't have any other grads to really talk to. The graduate summit was able to connect me with other grads and see how they're doing in their own projects, and basically we catch up and make a good rapport to see how we're doing all over New Zealand, really. Yeah.
Cool. There's another one here, Cedric. What's your biggest challenge going from uni to full-time work?
Oh, well, it's a bit different for me, because during the summer breaks I did internships with a construction company. So I was used to the early mornings and late finishes. But I'd say something that's more relatable is, I guess, coming into this business, you don't actually know much coming from uni. All the theory and all that. But the main thing that you learn most of the skills from the guys actually down doing the job, from the chippies and the foremans and the supervisors. And I guess making a good relationship really helped me to understand the practicalities of actually getting things done, which makes you a better engineer at the end of the day. Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions coming up? We've only got 1 minute left before we hand it over. In terms of video interviews, we're not doing those on our side of the business at the moment, but in general, make sure you've got a good microphone and your camera's working properly, and just be yourself. Don't overthink it. Just, short answers that get to the point rather than rambling on a bit. It's definitely good to write some stuff down for those, I would say. In terms of certain positions in certain locations, you're going to have more options if you can be flexible, but we do appreciate that people have commitments and so need to stay in a certain location, and that's fine too. Some things can be done flexibly. I wouldn't say we offer any remote grad roles, just because you need to be learning with people that have the experience, and it's really hard to do that remotely at the start. But we do work flexibly. So there's definitely options there. And I think that pretty much brings us to a close for our presentation. I will drop a link to the application in the chat. It is still open until the 26th, so don't worry about that, you haven't missed out. So yeah, thanks everyone for your time. You can reach out to Marie or I on LinkedIn. Not sure if Cedric's there, but yeah. Yeah, so yeah, any questions, let us know, and I'll hand back to you, Sam.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brigitte. Thanks, Marie. Thanks, Cedric, for your time today, and also to Fulton Hogan more broadly for being joined on the panel as well. Very insightful, and hopefully all of our students got a lot out of it. And up next, we've got Jess has come back to join us again, and let me also add Jessie as well. Give me just a second as I add Jessie into and Spotlight, and let me, cool, throw it to you both. Over to you, Jess and Jessie.
Hi, Jess and Jessie, huh? What a team. We didn't do that on purpose. Hey, thanks to Fulton Hogan. That was really good to hear about your graduate program. So we are going to go through, give you a bit of a intro to our graduate development program, what's involved, the recruitment process, eligibility. So there seems to be quite a few questions coming through on that. So we'll make sure we cover all of that. And then Jessie will talk a little bit about the work that we do, the clients that we work with, and he's also going to talk about a project that he's worked on recently. So for those of you who didn't join earlier, quick intro. I'm the People and Culture Advisor at the Property Group, or TPG for short. And I'm based in our Wellington office, and I look after our graduate development program. And I might just pass to Jessie, give you just a quick intro of yourself, and then we'll kick into it.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Jesse Taylor. I'm a property consultant. I'm based in TPG's Napier office. I've been with TPG for about 13 years, and I actually started as a grad. So I'm quite keen to connect with you all and let you know sort of where I came from.
Yeah, great. Jessie will probably be able to answer more questions than me, given you've been here for 13 years. So we'll kick into it then, and I'm pretty sure we make these slides available afterwards as well, so I'll probably move quite quickly through them. So our graduate development program, we're quite different from Fulton Hogan, and in that we're not a construction company. We are a consultancy company, and we are what I would describe as a medium-sized business. So we've got between 170 and 180 people across the country. And so we're really proud of our graduate program. We think it's a really great opportunity for property graduates or people from other disciplines that are keen to get into the property industry or into a consultancy role. And so the value that we see in our program is we offer quite a wide range of services, which Jessie will talk about shortly. So it means we've got a lot of different types of clients, a lot of different types of projects that our graduates can get exposure to. But we've still got that medium-sized kind of, I don't know, I suppose family feel is what I would describe it as. You tend to know everybody that works at TPG. It's not too big that you don't know people. And so our managing director, for example, still sends everyone a handwritten Christmas card, which I think is quite nice. So if you want a kind of smaller organization, this would be a really good fit. And so our graduate program, again, quite a bit smaller than Fulton Hogan. I think I heard them say 85 graduates. We currently have 13 graduates across our 2-year program. We took 8 graduates last year, and then we had 5 or 6 from the previous year. So that's probably around a similar number that we'll take this year. So with the graduate program, this is what we describe as the 3 really important pillars of our grad program. Support and guidance is really important. We know that graduates are coming with no experience or relatively little experience, and that's fine. So we make sure that we wrap support around our graduates from day one. So you'll have a manager, obviously. You're also part of a graduate peer network with those cohort of grads I just mentioned. And then all of our graduates get a mentor after 6 months. So that's usually a senior person in the business. And they're there to guide you in your career, help you decide what area of the business or what direction you want to learn more about or kind of move into. Learning, development and feedback is also really important. Everyone gets a performance and development plan, which sets out really clear expectations of what you have to learn and helps you map out your career. And also really regular check-ins for grads as well. That's really important that they're getting feedback on the job. And then the other final one is delivering a superior client experience. So the really key part of this, I think, is understanding consultancy. So the client is at the center of what we do. So we have lots of different clients. So you get, as part of this program, to develop really core consultancy skills. So if you're not sure what that means, consultancy, it really at the heart of it, and Jessie, you can talk a little bit about this as well, but it's we deliver to a whole load of different clients at any one time. So you don't get just to work for TPG, you actually get to work for a lot of different businesses and a lot of get exposure to a lot of different types of work. And so what we really focus on for consultancy is good communication skills. So written and verbal communication is really important. Critical thinking and problem solving. You're usually presented with a problem that our clients want us to solve. And then collaboration and teamwork. So because we've got offices all around the country, often people are pulled in on projects who have the skills from a different area. So you might work with one team on one project, and then you might working with a different team or different people on another project. So that's a quick overview, and this is a bit of a more detailed roadmap of what our program looks like, but it is quite structured for when our grads come on board. So the first probably 6 months is a lot about just learning about our business, our clients, the type of work that we do, meeting other people, building relationships. And you'll find that probably a lot of what we do for our grads, it doesn't start to make sense till about 6 months, or it doesn't start to make sense altogether. It starts to connect and kind of really click for our grads once they start to get more exposure. And so I already mentioned on the job learning and professional development, we've got a learning and development program as well for our graduates and for the wider business as well. So the other final thing I would say on this is that we've got a lot of people who have a lot of experience in the property industry, so it's a really good place to learn, and so you get teamed up with a senior consultant who you work alongside, or different people, whatever, depending on what client or project you're working on. So we do have a lot of industry experience, and so our grads, they tell us that's what often attracts them to join the program. So that's a very high level overview because I'm conscious of the time. This is just a little bit more about TPG overall. We have a wellbeing program. We also have quite a fun and social work culture, and we do work with Kids Can as part of our corporate social responsibility program. So I'll pass to Jesse now. He'll give you an overview of the service lines or the expertise that we have, and also a bit more insight into the types of clients that we work for. And then he's going to talk about a recent project. So I'll pass to you, Jesse.
Excellent, thank you, Jess. So yeah, look, Jess has already provided a pretty accurate summary of what TPG is and what we provide, but just to double down on that, and probably more so from an operational perspective, I guess as a high level snapshot, TPG provides property solutions from sort of that pre-project implementation phase. So like your due diligence and your planning and whatnot, right throughout a project by way of negotiations or ongoing strategic advice, through to project closeout, such as sort of your settlement and your legalisation actions. So I guess to wrap that up, TPG sort of provides an end-to-end property service tailored to meet our clients' specific needs, and more importantly, and most importantly, I guess, is to add value to the projects that they're asking us to give input to. So in terms of our expertise, I guess this slide here is a bit of a snapshot of the areas we do add value to our clients. So quickly expanding and touching on a few of those offerings. So we've got property advisory there. We've got the likes of our lease reviews and advice, site identification and analysis, workspace and fit out brief developments, project management and portfolio rationalisation and optimisation. Sort of investigations, we've got our RMA planning there, which is sort of your due diligence, RMA due diligence and resource consent processing. Urban regeneration, it's relating to sort of the regeneration of areas which typically don't have any commercial activity. So we do the likes of the master planning and urban design assessments for our clients. Development management, we do a lot of site searching and acquisition work. Again, the due diligence and feasibility studies come into that there. GIS, this is quite a new application for us and something that really does have an application for almost everything. I don't sort of get through a project without using the GIS system, and it's largely data driven, but it's really useful for project management and tracking, and even just displaying information to our clients. I think that's really a good tool that we do have and we have developed recently. Local government advisory, so that's your strategic property advice to our councils and whatnot, and we provide a lot of acquisition and disposal work in that space. Statutory services, we've got an in-house legal team, and I think that's quite a big point of difference for us. And I mean, what we do is legally complex, and it is critical to have legal opinion on a lot of the things that we do recommend to our clients. So this is a pretty good point of difference for TPG, and certainly has helped me in the past. It's something I use every day, so I'm pretty happy to have them on board. Housing and community, again, we do our portfolio assessments and market assessments and whatnot. Infrastructure advisory, site selections, again, acquisition and disposal works for some of our bigger clients there. And energy, again, we do a lot of acquisition and disposal, due diligence on some of the big acquisitions and whatnot they do, as well as a bit of strategy advice around that. So moving on quickly to our clients, I'm quite mindful of time, so I am punching through this, but we've got Waka Kotahi there, who is our biggest client. We do a lot of work for them on their acquisition of land for roads and whatnot, and we also do a lot on their disposal portfolio, which is the sale of their surplus land. Central government, that includes sort of your ministries, so Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health and whatnot, and we do a lot of work for these outfits, and the example that I'm going to speak to shortly is actually a Ministry of Health project. Local government, we've got our councils and local authorities that we do a lot of work for, and the SOEs there, such as Kiwi Rail, we've more recently picked up a lot of work with them and do a lot of work with them. Now, private companies and trusts, it is less common, but we do some things with those clients, and I'm working on a couple here from sort of a water perspective. That's it's always interesting to have a big mix of clients there, and I guess that's the great thing of having such a diverse range of clients, is that the project work we do is so varied, and it provides opportunities to not only increase your experience and your knowledge base, but if you really want to delve into an area and become quite experienced in any given area within the company, I think TPG provides great opportunities for us to do that and really apply yourself. So if you're interested in energy or transportation or whatever it might be, you can really drill into that and become that expert, which is great. So moving down to our case studies. So today I'm going to speak to the new Dunedin Hospital project that we recently completed for the Ministry of Health. So I guess full disclosure, I actually wasn't involved in this one, but it is quite an interesting and high profile project that I did want to sort of use as an example today. So a bit of background, the existing hospital itself was in reasonably poor condition. And so our client came to us and said, we need somewhere new to construct a new hospital with all the appropriate infrastructure. And so we were engaged in 2017, and we were asked to negotiate the purchase of Dunedin's Cadbury factory, which happened to be closing, but I guess that's a reasonably iconic landmark that everyone's aware of, and we were engaged to purchase that, and that was the potential site for the new Dunedin Hospital. Following that, we were asked to do a bit of a scoping study for additional sites, for new hospital sites as well, and do a bit of a preference ranking against criteria that were given to us by the client. And so that was a big part of the job there. And following that, they asked for further advice around actually acquiring the entire block around the Cadbury factory itself. So our added value here, other than being accredited suppliers and whatnot, we were able to provide a property acquisition strategy for the project up front. And what we do in this document is we sort of, do a full investigation of all the properties we're looking at, and we explore sort of property specific risks and costs and timings and whatnot, and make a recommendation to the client around what the most appropriate acquisition strategy is. And what it does is it identifies potential showstoppers up front, and it allows us to sort of give some advice around how we work around those to secure the project and the properties for the project. So what we picked up here was that a lot of the sites in the area of interest were sort of a mixed ownership structure. So, whilst they were, I think it was 8 properties that we were acquiring, they actually had an additional 9 leasehold interests in them, which were all operating businesses, and none of them really wanted to move from where they were. So as you can imagine, it led to some pretty interesting and challenging negotiations, but we rolled out a good team to go and work through those negotiations. And I've been a part of quite a few project teams in the past, and I can say that it is actually a really enjoyable aspect of being a consultant. You go out and you form part of a team where everyone's rolling their sleeves up and working towards sort of a common goal and a deliverable, and working to a deadline. And when you actually achieve it, it's massively satisfying. So really enjoyed being part of projects like this in the past. And I know that the team here were really enjoying this, and they still talk about this one. So that sort of tells you that it was quite an enjoyable bit of work. The project was time critical. The client obviously had a deadline, and so we started the process of compulsory acquisition. But I'm quite pleased to confirm that we didn't actually have to use compulsory acquisition here. We did acquire all of the properties, both the freehold and the leasehold, and did some some reasonably complex business relocations all through negotiation. So it was a good outcome in the end, and construction is estimated to be completed in April 2028. So still a while before that'll be all up and running. But I guess just to wrap up the project itself, it was, a very exciting for us anyway, a $1.5 billion project. And that's big for us to be involved with. It was the biggest Dunedin infrastructure spend of all time, as far as I'm aware. We completed all the required acquisitions on time and on budget, and I think we spent somewhere in the order of 70 million on site acquisition costs. So it's a big project. We rolled out the entire team. We had property advisory, legal, planning, GIS. Everyone had input in the project, so everyone came together. Again, going back to that point of the team pulling together for the common goal, it's enjoyable when everyone can say they played a part, and the client were incredibly happy with the outcome. So, if we didn't land the property, they couldn't have done what they are planning to do with the site. So, again, it's a good example of life as a consultant. It's fun, it's challenging, and once you've done it, it's pretty rewarding to see, all your hard work go into something. So, that's the new Dunedin Hospital project. And on that, I'll hand it back to you, Jess.
Thanks, Jessie. I think it's really a great example, and kind of helps people understand the work that goes in before we even reach kind of starting the construction part. So often people don't understand that. If you could just keep an eye on the questions, Jessie, and we'll come back to them now in a couple of minutes. So I'll just finish up with a couple of points on our applications. So we've got two streams in our graduate development program. The first one is property and GIS. So that would be a property consultant or anybody working in our GIS team. That's open now. It opened on Monday for 3 weeks, so until the 2nd of May. And you can apply for that online through our website. And there's also a lot of information about what we're looking for on our website. That's open to students from a property degree. So Auckland University, Lincoln, Massey are the main ones that have property degrees, but we also take students from business, commerce, law. Is we have quite a lot of graduates with a law background because there is quite a lot of legislation involved in what we do. And then our GIS analysts will come from usually a science degree or another type of degree that has GIS papers. And then our other stream for this year is planning and urban regeneration. So that will open in mid-May, and the disciplines that we look for are planning, obviously, usually Otago, Auckland, Massey again. And urban regeneration tends to be a little bit more focused, usually architecture and urban design. So we are quite flexible with the number of graduates we take. It really depends on the people that we get and the location that you're willing to go to. So we do have locations on our application form, which will give you a little bit of an idea of where we're taking people. But the more flexible you are, the more likely you are to get a role, is probably a piece of advice that I would give you, which I know Fulton Hogan mentioned as well. So there's some more information in here about what we look for and how to apply, the interview process, but this is all on our website, and we'll make these slides available as well. But a quick snapshot of our application process. We get people to do a short video if they're shortlisted, and then we invite you to one of our offices to attend an interview with some other applicants. And then you're usually offered a role after this, the interview process, and then we get you to catch up with our team depending on the location that you're going to be placed in. And all of our graduates tend to start in January or February, but there is a little bit of flexibility with that depending on when you finish university. So I know we've run over time, so we will finish up there, and I'll just check if there's any questions that we have received that we haven't answered.
I think a lot of the questions are relating to sort of taking on graduates, not specifically with a property background per se. And I think the answer there is absolutely. I mean, the right people are the right people. So I mean, we've got plenty of I've got plenty of colleagues here who have various backgrounds. We've got someone here with an art history background, I think, who's a fantastic consultant. So I think if you've got the skill set, there's nothing. There's nothing.
Yeah. One question: do you have any reservations in hiring a marketing student? I'm not sure whether that means in our marketing team or in our property consultant team. But I think, just to echo what Jessie said, look, if you're interested, put in an application and demonstrate your interest in working in consultancy or in the property industry, and we'll definitely consider it. Collective communication between all parties. Do you directly or indirectly with iwi Hapu as part of consultation? Can you talk to that, Jessie? And Sam, can we keep going, or do we need to stop?
You've got the thumbs
up.
We can
keep going. Okay, because I don't think there's anyone after us. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so look, we absolutely do. In fact, we've built quite a good relationship in various areas, well, in all areas with iwi and Hapu. And, every project that we work on do consider the effect on the iwi and Hapu. And it's a big part of our early engagement strategy to get in front of relevant people and have discussions. I mean, we're doing some project work here in the Hawke's Bay where, we're affecting some quite significant or culturally significant water bodies. So absolutely, we're engaging early, and we're making sure that everybody's aware of what we're doing. Hopefully that answers that for you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jessie. And then the last one: do you have any graduate program for quantity surveyors at the moment? No, we don't have quantity surveyors, but we take people with a background in that, I'm sure, but we don't do quantity survey. Is that the correct answer, Jesse? When I refer to my technical consultant here.
Yeah, no, so strictly speaking, no, but I mean, a lot of the skill set will probably carry over, and we're working with quantity surveyors regularly, and as I said earlier, on the basis that, the right person is the right person. The background doesn't really matter too much to me.
Okay, I think that's all the questions. Does anyone have anything else, or we might wrap it up there? All right. Right, thank you for tuning in, and yeah, go onto our website or onto our Possible profile, and we've got some profile stories on our current round of grads that might be useful for you to read as well. So we'll hand back to you, Sam.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jess. I'll just close the screen. Let me just put myself back in, and that actually concludes today's virtual construction and property services stream. Now, we do have other streams going on currently right now, including in technology. So make sure you stick around if you'd like to hear from other areas of interest today. I think engineering consulting still got a little bit of time to run as well. But thanks so much to Jess and to Jesse from the team at Property Group, and also again, a big thanks to the team at Fulton Hogan from earlier as well. Final piece of note as well. So again, this is our final session for the construction and property services stream. Now, currently we've got feedback open for today's event. So if you can scan this QR code that I've got up on the screen now, you'll be able to answer the form to give us feedback and let us know if you want to see more events like this, and also how it went today. Feedback does close tomorrow, April 14th, so make sure you get that done ASAP. I'm going to leave this one open for a few more minutes. We'll also drop into the chat the virtual event page for you to go back to, but hopefully you might have that in your emails as well, or you've joined from there as well. So make sure you jump back to the virtual event page. You can listen into the last few presentations that are on today. But thanks again to everyone for today's session. We'll sort of finalize it there. I'll leave this open for a few more minutes if you're deciding to stay on board. And I believe the team from Fulton and Property Group will be in touch with information about slides and the like as well in the coming week or so. Thanks everyone for your time, and we'll see you either the next other streams or at the next event. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks.